everybody, Mary KDK here, coming to you guys, okay, looking fun. Don't look fun? Yes, okay, I have my I want to dance with somebody. My name is not Susan vibe going on here with the leopard, okay? Fun, fun, fun. So if you cannot tell, this is Mary KDK vacation style. My family has come off not one, but 2 vacations, okay? Tired is me. Sleepy is me. However, I could not get comfortable without making a video first to share with you guys everything that has been poured into me. So let's get started. Our vacations were family type vacations. So I got to, we made sure that we saw our grandparents, which is our children's great-grandparents, during our 2 vacations. One of them was way out in dirt roads, country, side of Texas, and I got to meet some family I had never met before, and it was so awesome out there in that small little town full of love, and I'm so grateful for that opportunity. We celebrated my husband's grandfather's 90th birthday. How awesome is that, okay, to be 90 years old. I had so much fun with him. I asked him so many questions. My children had a good time with him, from the 6-year-old to the 9-month-old. We just enjoyed each other, and it was just beautiful listening to what everybody had to say about him. Our next vacation included a trip to the capital city of the Lone Star State, and I got to visit with my family and see my grandfather. So my children got to see their great-grandfather on my side, who is 81 years old. By the time this video goes up, he'll be 81 years old. So that is a lot of years, just to hear love and just to hear his stories and all that kind of stuff. I was so excited to do. So let's get straight to the point. This video is about that. Spending time with family, but most importantly, spending time with the grandparents of the family. How often do you call your grandparents? How often do you check on them and see how they're doing? How often do you actually have a conversation with them where you really listen back? Not just say, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. The weather's good, okay. How often do you listen attentively to what the grandparents are saying to you? Taking in that wisdom, hearing their stories. So that's why I titled this video, Things That I Learned from My 81 and 90-year-old grandfathers. So let's get started. One of the first things that I learned in the visits with them is that you need to visit them more often. Yes, they have children. Yes, they have grandchildren, and most of them have great-grandchildren. You need to make sure that you're communicating with them often. I know a lot of times, even with me living in the Lone Star State, the same state as the grandparents, it's very hard for me to see them sometimes because we do live hours away. But I call them weekly, check on them, see how they're doing. So the first thing I learned is communicating with them often, letting them hear the voices and the laughter of their great-grandchildren, listening to their stories, being attentive when you listen, and asking them questions that they can understand, and asking them questions because you really want to know the answer. Don't just ask them just to keep the conversation going. I really want to know your history. I really want to know why you moved here. I really want to know how you fell in love with your wife. Those are the things that I ask. I really want to know about your bootlegging history. Yeah, I have a grandfather who was a bootlegger. I really want to know what you felt like when JFK died. Yes, I have a grandfather who got talked to and treated so crazy and bad because he was around when JFK died. Think about the ages of my grandfathers. They were here to see a lot of things. So those are the things that I ask. What's your favorite car? You know, what's your favorite food? In all the years you've been alive, tell me the one dessert that you can't live without. Those are things that will spark up grand memories and conversations. So visit them more often, and then I included number 2 in that, which is listen attentively to them. The third thing that I will say that I learned from them is be mindful of the mistakes that were made. That's one thing that I can say I was so humbled by, is that both of my grandfathers were very honest when I listened to them. And a lot of times people think that older people they don't know what they're talking about. But even in the midst of a senile adult, you will hear truth and wisdom. And you have to be mindful of what is being said and listening to the wisdom that they're giving out to you. God forbid that you have an issue with your parents, and when you talk to your grandparents, you realize that that issue came from them. Does that make sense? So as a Christian, I do understand that there are things called generational curses. So a lot of the issues that you may have directly with your parents as a believer, you understand that they're doing the best that they can, and they did the best they can as a result of what they learned from watching their own parents, and so on and so forth. And so it comes up, starts all the way up, and it goes all the way down to you. And you just got to figure out how to work it out in the name of Jesus. But I'm so grateful for grace that is for everyone. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to hear the wisdom. And I'm so proud and humble that they are honest about the mistakes that they made. Even the examples that they set for their children, and what made them stop living bad lives, and what made them decide to work harder. Why, even though they were tired, you know, and they were working really hard, but they kept on doing it because they had children to take care of. And it may not have been 100% the best at what they did, but they were the best that they could be for the time that they could be it. Lastly, and the most important thing that I will say, there's so much more, and check my blog post for more and for pictures. But the last and most important thing that I will say, aside from communicating with them and visiting them more frequently, listening to them attentively, taking in the wisdom, the last thing that I will say that I learned from visiting my grandparents, my grandfathers, because both of my, I don't have any grandmothers anymore, is forgive. Forgive. And that's kind of tied into what I was just talking to before. A lot of times we get so frustrated with the things that we were seeing as a result of being raised, or you may see your family who does this, and so you're trying to figure out why. Again, you have to let go. And so it's funny when you're talking to your grandparents and you're like, okay, now I know why every time they hear this word, they flip out, because this happened when they were 6. You'd be surprised the stories that you hear when you're listening attentively and hearing the wisdom and being humbled by the fact that they're being honest to you and about their mistakes and what your grandparents are saying to you. And so the last thing I would say is forgive, because it gives you a broader eye view of the reasons why your parents may have made some of the decisions that they made, the reasons why some of your family members are the way that they are. And that doesn't make what the choices, if they're bad choices, that doesn't make those bad choices right. And it does not give them an excuse to make choices that are not right. But it will give you a clear understanding and help you to be appreciative that you have an opportunity through God's grace not to make the same mistakes that your grandparents may have, that your parents may have, that your peers or your cousins or your friends around you may have, because you have an example of somebody who's been here 70 or even 50 or 60 or 80 or even 90 years to tell you, I've done it. I was wrong when I did this. I wish I would have done this better, but I'm still here. And so you have to forgive. What's so amazing about God's grace is that even though we make mistakes, God's grace is for everyone. And so in that generation, they may not fully know how to ask for forgiveness, but do they really have to? Do they really have to? No. Just forgive and move forward and grow in God's grace and realize that His grace is for everyone, because you can't hold any grudges or issues based on things that it may have happened, not just with their family. I'm talking about friends, work, church, everybody. Forgive, because you want God to forgive you, and you want to learn from whatever situation happened. And even if the lesson that you learned is only learning how to forgive, that's an important lesson, and that's the lesson that's never going to stop as long as you're here. So I was appreciative of everybody coming up saying how much they loved him, how he's a great guy. And it's funny even to hear him say, you know, I used to do this, I was this, I was this, I was this, I was this. He had a long list of thises, okay? He had a long list of thises. However, he turned it around. And so even if he made a mistake in his turnage, that's okay, because again, God's grace is for everyone. And even with my grandfather, to hear the things that have happened to him, to hear how he was treated. I mean, just to hear the stuff that people were saying to him, the interactions that he had with different races as a result of when JFK died, and how he was treated in small towns. You know, my grandfather was a truck driver and a construction worker. He was treated bad, okay? And to hear how he did it and why he did it. And all he kept talking about was how much he loved his children, how much he loved his grandchildren, how he worked hard because he wanted them to have their own house that was theirs, and he paid off the house. My grandfather still has the car that he bought to drive everybody around in. I am more than proud of my grandfather. I am more than proud of my grandfather on my husband's side as well. Two phenomenal men, 90 years old, 81 years old, so much wisdom. And the reason that I'm also listening to their stories is because I want to be able to share them with my children if they don't get an opportunity to hear them for themselves, to listen attentively for themselves, to have a genuine conversation with them for themselves. But God is faithful. And so my challenge to everybody is to spend time with your family and apply these lessons that I learned from my grandfathers to everybody in your life, to your friends, to your family. And definitely check my blog post for more and pictures of my wonderful vacations and visits. I am just so grateful. My heart is so full. My heart is so full, and I just thank God. I'm just amazed. I'm amazed that I have 2 great men left, and I guess I'm kind of sad because I would have loved to even talk about my grandmother. That's one of the things that they both said. They miss their wives and that they're lonely. So that's why I'm really stressing it when it comes to your grandparents. Visit them. Imagine how it could be to be married to somebody, or to be married to your spouse for many years, even if you're married to them for 6 or 7 years. I wouldn't know what to do if my husband wasn't here. And so to hear them say they're lonely and they miss their wives, it made me sad, but I know that they are happy with the time that they had with them. And they weren't like curled up in a ball crying, but they just were honest. I miss my wife and I love my wife. I love spending time with my wife, and she's not here. And I'm sad about that, but I'm going to be all right. So visit your grandparents. Love on your family, guys. You only get one. The cards are dealt. You may not like your hand. Everybody can have a full house, but guess what? Even those that claim to have the perfect hand, they don't. We're all human and we all err. So definitely love on your family. And remember, God's grace is for everyone, even you. And that same attitude that you forgive with, God will forgive you. Because don't you want your prayers to be heard? You don't want your prayers to be hindered, right? So let's do right by our family and love on them while there's time. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you guys in the next video. Grace and peace.